Morning. Today is Thursday, March 5th. And this is a special Board of Education Policy Committee meeting. You have some policies to discuss, and I'll throw it over to Dr. Burr.
Okay, good morning. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. I do want to make one announcement. There's a number of policies that we'll be discussing today, but an error was discovered yesterday. So policy 5275, that is sex discrimination and sexual harassment, we are pulling from today's agenda, and it will be added back to the next policy meeting. So I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Sion to take us to the next steps for today. Apologies for the errors.
Right, and with a thanks to Mr. Brown, who had asked for a more detailed red line version, and when I went back to try to do that with Shipman and Goodwin, that's when we discovered the error. So thank you, Mr. Brown. There is a pretty comprehensive description of the changes proposed for the graduation requirements policy. Mrs. Dunn is here if you want her to explain it again or to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I-
Go ahead.
Morning.
Do you want to go?
Morning. Thank you. And by the way, the red line, I love that, that version. It makes it very easy to track the changes.
Yep.
Yes, and I mean, it's a complicated description of why it wasn't there, but it'll be there next time.
Yeah, I'm going to second that. I always love me a good red line. So looking forward to it.
So I just want to make sure I understand, and I had a slight question. So this gives a student. Thank you. So this provides a student that the flexibility to take additional courses in, say, music or arts that they would like to take.
Yes, what we've discovered is that some of our students who have real focus in specialty areas, the visual arts and performing arts, students and looking to continue that and go on to study go on to study in these areas beyond high school, really want to pursue a four-year program. So for example, someone who is a vocalist will want to be in the choir and the concert choir for 4 years. That takes up a piece of that schedule. And we want to honor that. We don't want those students to have to step out of orchestra, for example, for a year in order to meet the STEM requirements. And so we've had several discussions about how to do that. And on the table have been implementing changes to the curriculum of concert choir to allow for STEM development over 4 years. That seemed rather uncomfortable and didn't seem to be in the spirit of the curriculum of choir and art to try to insert STEM requirements in order to meet the demands. And so our analysis has led us to say, we do have significant amount of increased time in our lab sciences. That means increased curriculum, increased expectations around that increased time to support our laboratory experiences, and that it makes more sense for us to award credit to the authentic experience of science rather than trying to change the curriculum of courses that are not really designed to be STEM courses. And so this proposal has arisen out of that. And so if you compare the time in a typical classroom for roughly 90-minute periods in an 8-day rotation, in a laboratory science class, there are 5 90-minute periods over the same window of time. And so literally the math leads us to 0.625 per semester rather than 0.5.
I think that's a very good compromise, and your reasoning was well laid out. But so the question I had is the credit, one sentence, the credit increase will not impact the grade point averages because science courses will not weigh more than other courses in the calculation of GPA. Now, if a course is weighted heavier, why is that? Like, why wouldn't there be some, 0.125 or adjustment?
Well, I think we are awarding the credit, but not allowing it to weigh heavier in the GPA. So in other words, controlling for that. I think the complexity of going to a change like that would now mean that physics weighs more heavily in your GPA than AP English literature.
But,
And-
right, I understand, but my point is, they're also spending more time in the classroom.
That's true.
That
It is
class.
true. I think what we're trying to do is honor the laboratory component of it, however,
Uh-huh.
and not have, for example, retroactively, we would intend to do this with the entire school, so that students who are sophomores have more flexibility as they go through junior and senior year. We would, by that conclusion, have to change everyone's GPA right now at Darien High School, which doesn't seem like a wise thing to do. It wouldn't be fair to students to say now retroactively, a course that you took in ninth grade is going to now weigh more heavily in your GPA than you expected it to at the
Right.
time.
I guess I'm just thinking from, personal experience in college courses where you might take a calculus course that was 4.5 credits instead of the 3 credits that are normal.
Yes. And sometimes there was a separate grade for lab in that situation, right? So a different lab grade as opposed to the class grade in a college setting. I don't think we're trying to model that. It would require science courses to grade 2 different grades, and it's not the spirit of what we are proposing.
It just gives me pause. But so maybe this would help me understand it also. So, but this is a core requirement for every graduate.
There are 3 science labs, excuse me, that are required, absolutely. 3 years, not 4 years, but 3 years.
So then maybe we even it out by not granting a heavier weight to that class because everybody is in the same position. Okay. Okay. Thank you for explaining it to me. Thank you.
Sorry, I may be more confused. So if you are giving a quarter credit more to each science class with a lab,
For the seat
Towards-
time, exactly, for the
Okay.
seat time. Mhm.
and then that covers the STEM requirement instead. So if you have 3.75, then you've also covered the STEM credit. So there's more time or,
Yes, that 0.75 is now part of the total of 9.
okay,
So you may still choose to take 3 years of science and other courses that meet the STEM requirement. Many of the students in the high level visual arts and music classes are taking 4 full years of science with
Right.
lab. And so for that group of students, this would result in 5 credits for your 4 years. Most of them are also taking 4 years of high level math classes. And so the 9 credits would be done for those students. If you don't want to pursue a 4th year in lab science, you may take digital photography. There are many courses that meet the STEM requirement other than laboratory science. We just wanted to honor the additional time and curriculum spent in those classes.
right, okay.
Do any other districts do this same scoring or?
Not many districts have sustained the lab time, which has been very important to us in their science classes. New Canaan does have a lab just similar to ours, and they also do a 0.625 credit per semester.
Okay. And to Bill's point, I think I was on the same point of this GPA. I guess it's easy because nothing changes on your calculating your GPA. But if we didn't do it retroactively, well, I don't want to ask the question. Never mind. I'll just go.
I still don't
I mean,
think
I
we'd want to
think
do it. I
you
still
wouldn't
don't
do it-
think we'd want to do it. I mean, that's one reason not to do it, but I don't want to say science
Is more.
is more
important.
important.
Yeah, but to Bill's point, I mean, it's an extra, it's extra time, so it should be weighted and extra work versus, I don't know if it's extra work. I mean, you have to do writing papers is
Yeah.
my.
It's different work.
I was a lab person, so I enjoyed being in a lab, so.
Well,
Okay,
yeah, but having suffered through 4.5 credit calculus course that met on Saturday mornings. It was, and it had, a disparate impact on your GPA because it was 4.5 credits and most everything else was 3.5. So, but it was seat time. I guess that's what was giving me the pause, or do we grandfather?
I think it would change, the way science is approached at the high school to do that. You would be separating lab experience out from the classroom, and I don't think that's the spirit with which the science department supported this proposal, so I think we'd have to go back to a discussion again, before we would want to go to a GPA weighted
Weighted.
situation.
I have a different, completely unrelated question. And this is not a change, but in reading through the policy again, I noticed this. I just wanted to, in the policy, it says under the world language requirement, any student who's deaf or hearing impaired may be exempted from any world language graduation requirement. Does that also mean, and now in the top of the policy, it says anyone that has an IEP doesn't have to necessarily meet all these requirements. I just wanted to make sure that the IEP part is also included with the, it's just interesting to me that usually if someone is hearing impaired, they would have a 504 or an IOP already. So the fact that it's called out extra in here, I was just wondering what that was.
That just tracks the language of the legislation that
Okay.
required the changes. That's all.
Thank you.
But you're not wrong.
I did have one other, I'm assuming, I think this is in the correct, it had to do with the FAFSA requirement. Is this the appropriate
Yep.
Sure.
place to?
That's also a new law.
Oh, so that reflects Connecticut law?
Yes.
Yeah. That's interesting that we would, okay, they decided to do that.
We're required.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that.
Yep.
It's pretty common across states.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, so we willing to pass this forward to the board, the full board? As is?
Yes.
Okay, great. Our next policy?
Student attendance and truancy. This allows for students who are also parents to request to be absent to attend adult education. And it now incorporates the state requirement that if a student is truant, that the district implement either the Connecticut State Department of Education truancy prevention program, which of course they haven't created yet, but we do have our own truancy prevention protocols.
Any questions on this one?
Sorry.
No, please.
I attended a CAPE conference and was a little shocked that, not our district, of course, but some other districts had a huge problem with truancy.
Yeah. It's a
And-
national issue, yeah.
But I would assume, if I'm correct, that the truancy rates in this district are exceptionally low. Okay. Just had a curious
Yeah.
about that. And by alternative education for adult education, I took that to mean, for example, a GED program. Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
we okay to move this forward? Okay,
Oh, and I'm sorry.
yeah, please.
The mental health wellness days. I found it curious. I kind of like it. And I could see, especially for a teenager, it might be exceptionally useful.
Again, that's a state requirement.
It is,
Yeah,
okay.
and we don't necessarily, we're not required to code it as such because we don't always know that that's why someone's absent. So it's sort of a provision with not a lot of teeth, but it is there.
Thank you.
Okay, next.
Okay, child sexual abuse and assault response policy. So this will dovetail with the personnel policies regarding mandatory reporting. The only thing that this adds, because our students know that if they're uncomfortable or if they see something, they say something. This just, you can see it refers to the personnel requirement of mandatory reporting, but it requires the school climate specialist to review any of these reports, looks for patterns and things like that. And it also, as required by law, has a uniform complaint procedure and some forms to use for these complaints. But it won't add anything except the school climate specialist, because we already have most of these procedures in place via the personnel policy.
Any questions?
That one I'm good on.
I think my only point on this, and it's something, is when we put in section 5, the community resources, and lists them out. What happens if one of these places are no longer in existence, and then do we have to revise said policy?
Yes.
Is there a way around that, or, I mean, can we, I don't know, is it?
I don't know that it's required to add the resources. Shipman does, and then when things change, even if you notice on some of the other policies, the address of the agency in Washington changed, they changed it for us. It is a little cumbersome. But I think they wanted to give, notice to people that these resources
I
exist.
appreciate having it there,
Yeah.
so people can find it in one place and not be like, well, I don't know where to go to look, but
Right.
I just don't like potentially outdating a policy because someone changed an address or someone changed they merged together or something. So,
I'll check with Jessica Smith.
okay. Any other questions on this?
Well, so this policy is interesting that it's here right now. Is the only reason that it's in here is because there's been some language in state law that's changed, or is this, or any of this?
This is just part of our audit, our continuing audit. So we're into the 5,000s and 6,000s, and this was under revision, which is why it didn't come sooner. But there's no other, because again, the personnel 2 policies, reporting of child abuse and neglect in students and in adults, already covers everything
Right.
except the climate specialist.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? We feel okay to move this forward?
Yeah.
Okay. And last.
Okay, parental access to instructional material. It just codifies the law that says that beginning with the next school year, that the scope and sequence of our curriculum needs to be available to parents on the website, which, as you know, Dr. Fetterman and Fettigan and the curriculum team are working on.
Questions, comments? None? We okay to move forward? Yep. Dave?
Yes, sounds good. I'm good with all these, Dennis. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I thought I heard you.
Okay, and finally, the social media policy. These changes reflect some of the changes from the Supreme Court. And some of it is actually quite helpful to us, so that employees who use social media on behalf of the district, for example, our Darien Public Schools website, it clarifies that will be deemed to be speech on behalf of the district. So the rules of when you're speaking for the district will apply. I mean, that will help us, and several other provisions will also give clarity to the staff on social media use.
Any questions on
I,
this?
I think that's
Yeah.
due. I like
Yeah, I
that.
like this
Yeah.
too.
See?
Seeing none, we okay to move this forward?
Yes.
Okay. I think we're done with our policies. Our next point on the agenda is public comment.
We have no members of the public.
Okay, I'm open to take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So move. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.